I did enjoy my overall experience with the anime Hunter x Hunter, but I won't pretend that I don't have some strong opinions about a certain arc of the anime. Chimera ants. Either way, all joking aside, most people, even hardcore fans,
Fuck you, Matt.
will admit that the Chimera Ant arc has its problems. You see, I think I finally figured out why I personally think that arc is bad, and that is because of Cell. Meruem. You see, Hunter x Hunter sets up some pretty awesome arcs, and I've enjoyed just about every one except for the single arc where Hisoka isn't present. Hisoka is Gon's main antagonist of the show, and may have personally earned my badge for the best anime villain, and for good reasons. Hisoka is masterfully written. So today I want to talk about Hisoka, the main antagonist of the show, and Meruem, the main antagonist of the Chimera Ant arc. Then compare and contrast the two and show you just how shit Meruem is and just how awesome Hisoka is. So let's start with the man clown of the hour, Hisoka. Hisoka is a truly incredible antagonist through every arc he's involved in, and is probably one of my new favorite villains because Hisoka is sort of not a villain. I think one of the things that makes Hisoka great is the fact that he is Gon's antagonist, and not particularly a villain. Gon and Hisoka differ heavily on a fundamental level, but neither one of their ideals are either correct or incorrect. Gon is all about finding his father no matter what. He has no self-preservation and is simple-minded with a singular goal. Hisoka is the exact opposite. Hisoka is all about deception. His fighting style is exactly that, deceiving his opponents rather than overpowering them. Hisoka is all about planning ahead and making his opponents believe something that isn't true, then catching them off guard or tilting the battle into his favor. When writing antagonists, there are a few techniques you can apply to really make them stand out. One of the best ways to make an antagonist feel all-powerful without it feeling unwarranted is by having them be extremely skilled at attacking the protagonist's weaknesses. Gon strictly fights via overpowering his opponents, but as you can imagine, this only works to a specific extent. Hisoka is the vehicle the show uses to force Gon into realizing these weaknesses, thus forcing Gon into learning from his mistakes and becoming stronger. Another interesting thing to note about Hisoka is his morals. He is obsessed with Gon because he realizes that Gon has the potential to be an incredible opponent. So what does Hisoka do? He goes out of his way to make sure that Gon continues to grow stronger, often even resorting to helping him when he's in tough situations. Hisoka isn't your classical tropish villain. Hisoka is unique, pushes the plot forward, and is just an overall fun character to have in the show. His powers make sense, his presence has a clear effect on the narrative. Hisoka is the perfect antagonist to Gon, and fits in with the narrative so well that it's often hard to imagine the show without him. So let's move on to Meruem. Now I do want to preface this part of the video with a key note. I do think the idea of Meruem was pretty good. I can definitely tell what the author was going for when writing Meruem, but in essence, it doesn't change the fact that he failed. The first problem I'd like to point out is the fact that we sat through half an arc waiting for him to be born. I know that's kind of being nitpicky, but the fact of the matter is that 30 episodes out of this 60 episode arc are essentially without any real villain. But finally, once Meruem is born, we get an antagonist who is instantly overpowered. Remember what I mentioned earlier about building a strong antagonist. In order to make them enjoyable, generally you make an antagonist specialize in attacking our protagonist's weakness. Or if you're Meruem, you can just be born with insane godlike powers where you can crush essentially the strongest nin user in the world. There are no consequences or rules that Meruem follows. When we first see the Chimera Ants and they learn how to use nin, there were rules and structures to learning nin. Instead, Meruem and the other World Guard members are just magically born with nin and are practically masters overnight. This is just classic misuse of power acceleration. Granted, these are all merely small things I want to bring up before bringing up Meruem's morality. One of the other main functions in writing a strong protagonist is by having them have some sort of meaningful morality that makes our main character question his own. Hisoka's is nihilism and outsmarting his opponents and his will to truly test the limits of his skills. Meruem's is a bit unclear. At first it was to become stronger, but he's already the strongest in the world, so then it was to prove that he was the strongest, leading to the part of the arc where he faced off against all of the board game experts, finally coming across Komagi. I think this was a point where the arc could have been saved, having Meruem come to the conclusion that he was not all-powerful and that he was no better than the humans he was culling. But instead they went with this weird, forced sort of love story between the two, and Meruem believes that some humans are worthy of survival, then he loses his memories, and then he regains his memories, and then he finally decides to spend his last moments playing board games with Komagi. Meruem changed too much, and he never really commits to one ideology. I feel like that's the biggest weakness of Meruem. He doesn't stand for anything. He flips beliefs almost on a dime and never really establishes a belief system before dying. He doesn't really change the narrative in any massive way with the exception of killing off one of the main characters. And most importantly of all, he has no real effect on Gon, our main character. Gon is mostly affected by Pito, one of the Royal Guard members who experiences very similar problems as Meruem, flip-flopping from being cold-blooded murderer to being an extremely caring and honest character. I think my personal problem with Meruem is that he came after Hisoka. Hisoka was just such an incredible antagonist who would be hard to follow nevertheless, but it's also proof that the writer is more than capable of writing an excellent antagonist. This makes me believe that Yoshiro Togashi, the writer for the manga, just didn't bother putting in the effort with Meruem. There are a lot of ideas there, but nothing solid or enough to make me care. Thus, that is why Hisoka rocks, and Meruem is shit. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Special thanks to all of my patrons. You guys are my Hisokas. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel or receiving special perks, please check out my Patreon. I'll have a link in the description. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys say, man, go watch that goddamn anime!